Wow, speechless for multiple reasons, because it is the podcast studio here in the Skyloft at Mel, kicking off 2 days of events, of podcasts, and kicking it off with somebody. I've been waiting to meet you. I've seen you so much virtually and in LinkedIn. Jenny Pollock, I mean, obviously very much a mobile app expert, but we want to talk about AI because it's women and AI. And you're a co-founder, and I'm delighted I've got the other co-founder coming up just in a few moments. But backstory, Jenny, I get the app, I get that expertise because that's part of what you do. That's part of your DNA. You've worked with companies in Silicon Valley. It's all about digital growth. This is about AI. And what's the reason there?
So we founded Women and AI a while ago because there was that New York Times article that came out, and it was the who's who of AI. Right. And it was all guys. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of women doing really cool stuff in this space. And
must be.
Yeah. So we were actually drinking wine on my patio with me, Reut, and our other co-founder, Lana Dubinsky. And we should do something about this. Like, we're 3 relatively powerful women in Silicon Valley with good networks. Let's do something. So we started a podcasting community. We don't quite have the viewership of the New York Times quite yet, but hey, we're growing.
Well, communities are tight knit, right? So you don't need the numbers, you need the passion. So the passion is about women and AI. Great backstory, how you got the idea. Where are you now? So you have a podcast, but you have a community, and you're on a couple of my sessions during Mal as well. So what are you building?
Yeah, we're really building a place where we can shine the light on women working in AI. And so whether that's on our podcast, which is now on Spotify, Apple, and everywhere you can get your podcasts, or in person, at GDC, we hosted an event called AI and Bias, and we invited women to literally come to the table. It was a roundtable discussion and talk about that. And how are we seeing this? What can we do? How can we help each other? How can we make it more inclusive? And so there's a lot of ways to engage with the Women in AI community, whether it's in person or virtual, or just following us on LinkedIn and supporting what women are doing in the space.
So I got to ask, because I also have a podcast, obviously you're on it, but it's most times when I'm doing interviews with companies, I'm finding that, they are, I hate to say it, but almost like the worker bees. They're in the background. They're doing the really important stuff, but we don't know who they are. So give me an idea of some of the names, some of the examples. Are these women who want to shape AI and therefore they're in the organization? Or are these really like the movers and the shapers and the doers that we just need to know who they are so we can celebrate them?
I mean, it's both, Peggy. So we recently had Kim Carson on our podcast. She's the CEO of Parallax Futures. And what they're doing there is trying to create a brand new discipline called conceptual technologists. So kind of think of it as like design thinking, but for AI. And they're having folks go through their fellowship program to be able to actually talk and understand and be multidisciplinary in the way that they're building AI. So they're training the people who are going to build. Yeah. So it's really neat. But we also had Stephanie Dinkins on, Time 100 Person of the Year last year. And she was so great to have on. Our episode will be dropping soon, but we got to learn more about her work as she explores AI and art. She's an artist, and she focuses on looking at how our stories become our histories, how our future becomes our past, and looking at the generations, in her family. And so she's got a lot of really interesting art pieces that are powered by AI and that she works with AI. So we're really looking to talk to women who are in any space of AI, whether they're creating or creating programs for the creators, right?
So I'm a bit of a doer, and I do see a lot of, I'll call it change, but it's not like it's upset change, like you have to change things because I'm frustrated. It's like changing it because it can be better. Okay. So it's positive change. How are you affecting that? It's one thing to shine a light on the women. Is there something about women and AI as you do this that it's more like, okay, so this is the deal. You have to program this differently. You have to keep your biases to yourself and somehow not bring that into, because it's really interesting. I've seen a lot of really wild articles about how AI reflects the programmers who gave it that idea and gave it that intelligence in the first place. And that's where we have to start. What are you doing to make this better?
As you said, Peggy, it really reflects what we're doing as a society. So whatever the technology is, AI or not AI, it is a reflection of those who build it, those who are in the room when those decisions are being made. And so what we're trying to do is make sure there's diverse perspectives in the room where that software is being built, where the decisions are being made, and what's happening. And so what we're doing is really just creating that conversation and helping lift up the people who are doing that work. They should be getting the recognition and they should be getting support and excitement as they're doing this important work. So that's what we're trying to do.
It's got to be the same for you, right? Because this is what you're doing. This is where you are. What else is Jenny doing?
Oh, that's a great question. So I actually have a workshop coming up with an organization called Miss CEO, and I'm helping teach high school and collegiate students how to get their application materials ready. So I got a lot of help to get where I am today, a lot of amazing mentors. And one of the things I like to do personally is give back. And so I'll be doing that later this month and helping them get their LinkedIn and their resume ready. And sometimes all we need as women is just a little bit of encouragement and excitement, and we're able to foster these communities and support systems to get further. So even though that's not directly related to AI, I bet some of the women that I'm going to impact there will be in AI, you know?
Absolutely.
So it's really great.
No, that absolutely is it. And I was doing some research because unfortunately, March is the only time of the year that at Forbes or anywhere that we're writing all these articles about women doing things. So I did my research and I did a lot of looking into what happens when companies have diverse leadership. Guess what? Revenues go up. Isn't that amazing? Right? And another really important point is helping women that first rung, right? Up the first rung. The rest of it, they'll do by merit, but it's that first rung. So I have to commend you on what you're doing as well with Miss CEO.
Thank you, Peggy. It is very true. Getting that start, getting that solid ground to launch your career is essential.
Absolutely. Well, you're doing your work and it's hard work, but what do you do? I'm just curious because you have to get your ideas. You have to get your inspiration from somewhere. And we get inspiration, hopefully, from listening to your podcast, listening to this podcast, getting to know our mutual work. How do you keep it high, inspiring, keep yourself going, motivated? Because it's not easy. You go the path less traveled, it can be tough.
It can be. I find it's the people that I'm on the journey with. So I really have a great time working with my co-founders. Reut and Lana and I have worked together before in the past, and we're also friends. So it is really fun to be in this space creating something together. The other thing that I do is I like to take a step back from work occasionally. And so that means hot yoga sometimes, or doing agility with my little corgi dog. Like, it just depends.
How cute. Okay.
Yeah, it's great.
Be real. That's what it is about you, Jenny. You are real. And I get to talk with Reut very shortly. So, and maybe even hang out more often with all of you.
Yeah, we'd love to. That would be fun.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd hug you if you weren't so far away, but I can do this.
Awesome.
You're on, Jenny.
Great. Thanks, Peggy.
Thank you. So we are in the podcast studio all day long talking to amazing people, and I've got high energy. We just started because, one, I had your colleague, Jenny, in another interview. You also, of course, in the same organization, Women and AI. Reut, Lazo, great to have you here. You're a co-founder there, but you've also got a great backstory yourself, because most times it's about organizing for change or inspiring other people, but you are also head down because you're so focused on product. I think that's fascinating because that will bring a different aspect to what you're doing at Women and AI. Tell me about your motivation for being in this organization.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me today, Peggy. So my motivation coming into Women in AI actually came from a product perspective as well. So I was really fascinated with AI in different companies that I worked at. And I was trying to submerge myself in the AI industry. And I got declined over and over again for different reasons, because NFT was a thing, crypto was a thing back in the days, and AI got pushed to the sideline. And I really saw the potential of what we can do with AI in the different companies I worked at. So I said to myself and to my co-founders, I'm like, yeah, we should definitely do something like that. We should create something together that nobody can say no to us anymore. And we can lead it in a way that we believe that is true, and we can support one another, like having that community building. So that's where it came from me, from a product perspective. That's how I saw it, that potential to come alive.
So what do you want to make your contribution here? I mean, one is to build a community, which is awesome. We need that.
Yeah.
But you have the product background. So there's a way that you can influence AI and how we're using it, how we're not using it, the bias is there. You know, there's a lot that can be done, that can be shaped. What do you want your contribution to be?
Right. So first of all is helping other women in what they're trying to do, how they're building their AI journey and what they're trying to achieve, and see how can we support them in their aspect. Another aspect that I'm trying to support is I'm also an entrepreneur in an organization called AI 2030, where we build a responsible AI. And what I'm building there from a product perspective is an engine that evaluates companies or tools to build an ethical AI. So it's kind of a process that double check and certify tools to make sure there's no bias, that it is ethical. You have different pillars, and scoring system that it has to maintain. But I think that will really be helpful for companies to kind of say, because it's going to be out there, right? Like everybody's going to have different tools of AI, and people are going to say, like, how would I know that this tool is better than the other? What is more biased or what is less biased? How can I choose? So what we're trying to do in AI 2030 is give people the reassurance that, hey, we double check that tool, and we're making sure that this is good for you to use. It's less biased. We double checked it. So
I have to ask, but this is going to be a question we could go off. We could do another show just about this, but exactly that. How do you check that something was created or informed or trained in such a way that it is little or no bias? I think it'll always be there, because that's just human beings. It's always going to happen. But you want to keep it within a certain line. You sort of want to give it like a certificate. It's got like we do for energy efficient things. It's good. It's green. It's this. What are you doing? How are you approaching that? Because that is something. That is quite a responsibility.
It is. And it's really fascinating to build this kind of tool, right? And it's exactly what you're saying. It's like the energy that you want to make sure that people are building something that is genuine, right? Bias is always going to be there, but it starts from the database. And the fundamental database that most companies are using is affected by AI already, because we created it long time ago. The bias is there. So we're trying to check, first of all, that the database is clear and what is the origin of that database. And then we climb up the ladder for like 3 or 4 different processes to make sure that the database is correct and as unbiased as it can be. But also making sure how did the company double check themselves, if they have a firewall, data privacy, all these kind of things that are really, really crucial for any organization.
I'm just wondering to what extent. I'm based in Europe, so data privacy is a big deal in Germany where I'm based. And I just trying to imagine someone saying, yeah, come on in, check our database and see if it's okay. You must have some pushback. How are you dealing with that?
Yeah, so of course, data is a big thing, and it's very, very unique, and you need to take care of it in much more white gloves, as you can say.
Mm-hmm.
But we have all our guards up, and we're making sure that we're dealing with, like, very cautiously with the data that we get provided from the companies.
Okay.
And again, we're not using any kind of real data. We're just checking the engine that they're using or the tool that they're using, and trying to go down that funnel. So as minimized as we can be. And then there is steps that you can take when you're doing those checks. So first, it's like no real live data when you're checking it. You're just checking the flow. And then you feed that process a virtual data, like not real life data, and then you take real life data. So you're trying to check it in like 3 different levels before you kind of like give it a certificate or give it some kind of scoring. But we are making sure that everything is staying private and as minimum data exposures that we need to get in order to make sure that the process is being conducted correctly.
I mean, you're in Women and AI, and there, you know, you can tap into a lot of great ideas, remarkable women, maybe some interesting processes as well. Are you doing this with that? Is that sort of part of the project, part of the initiative? Is this like one of the outputs of that organization, or is this more you're doing it, but maybe tapping some good ideas and members there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's something that I do on the sideline, but as I'm you know, getting more and more involved in that and being an entrepreneur there, I'm getting to know all these great women that are working in AI, building that great tool with me. So it's really nice to see how we all can collaborate. And the minute that I mentioned that, you know, I'm co-founder in Women in AI, and we start talking, and then I recruit them to the podcast so fast. I'm like, you for sure are going to come on our podcast, and we're just going to have a chat about what we're doing together. So that's really awesome to see how the world are intertwined so easily.
Yeah, I write a lot about AI. I'm not doing anything particular, but did study the philosophy of science. I have some thoughts about AI. So who knows, we might pass across, cross-pollination here. You're on mine, I'll come to yours.
I hope so.
Let's hope, actually, we connect a year from now. You're back here at Mal, I'm here, and we're back here. What do you want to be telling me about Women and AI? What kind of cool news, great update do you want to be sharing?
Well, I hope that I'll share that our organization got so big that we have some more volunteers in our organization, impacting more and more women out there. We hope to influence more and more people and women to get involved in AI and to be visible in AI. So kind of like taking the fear of women standing out there and being vocal in what they're trying to do and champion what they're doing with our support. So I want them to feel that we have their back and and kind of like champion them towards success. Regardless what they're doing and which organization they're working at, they need to know that they have a home, and we are there to provide that for them.
Excellent. Well, we certainly need that, because I want to catch up again with you. I want to hear about what the struggles are, what it is you're up against, but I think I'll save that for another time, Reut, because we have so many more opportunities to catch up, I hope. And congratulations on what you're doing. Great to hear about it.
Thank you so much, Peggy. I appreciate it.